Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to NRRL. Tonight we're here for the Tuesday 50% division, and round 4 of Season 1 brings us to Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix. I am JP, your commentator tonight. A pleasure to be here, as always. And 18 drivers taking to the track tonight, looking for the search of glory here in Mexico. Always a great track for overtaking Mexico, especially the incredibly long straight down into turn 1, which will definitely play dividends. And this is one of the bigger tracks where qualifying most certainly is not everything, because with such a run down to turn 1, a lot of people would argue pole position not being ideal around this circuit. So it'll be interesting to see how drivers try and take that. Do they come out early? Do they come out late? Are they really pushing on for pole position? Obviously, while having pole position is technically the better place to start, with the slipstream and the run down to turn 1 can be very, very difficult to try and get the start hooked up. And around here, track limits always paying dividends in qualifying and in the Grand Prix. So we could have a little bit of a mixed up grid. We've got some new drivers in tonight as well. The likes of Ben Trott is one that sticks out to me. I've most certainly not commentated over before. He's currently on an out lap, as is Harry and Matt Connor. We are currently following the Ferrari of Matt Connor as he comes to the end of his out lap and will be the first man to set a flying lap in this session. And we will follow the Ferrari now and see what he can bring to the table as the first man to set a lap. As he rounds the final corner now, we'll go on board with him down this very, very long straight, and you can just see how long it is. You can't even see turn 1 as you come across the line, and it just feels like an eternity that you're on full throttle waiting to be able to get to that first braking zone. Very heavy braking zone into turn 1. Get it knocked over the sausage curbs. Try not to take too much curb on the exit, but you definitely do want to touch it, exactly like Matt Connor has done there. Now bring it over to the right for turn 4. Again, very heavy braking zone, almost identical to turn 1, but this time you're going left, then you're going right. Then you've got about a 100-meter sprint before you get into the next double apex hairpin. And now towards the S's section you go. Keep it right, swing it in left. Be wary of the track limits and the curbs as you turn your way in. Now for the hardest part, the right-hander. Switch it left again, and into the next DRS zone you go, and towards the stadium section, which lights up with the Mexican fans as you enter the final sector. Big braking zone here. Get it turned in for the hairpin. Important to have a lot of front-end grip there. Matt Connor has exactly that. The final corner. Always easy to run it a little bit wide and get it into the wall, or run it a little bit too close to the curb and invalidate. Matt Connor comes across the line for a 1:16.3. Next man to set a lap, I believe, will be Harry, who comes around the final corner now in the V-carb. Keeps it close to the line. Goes 2/10 quicker. It's a 16.1 for Harry. Good lap from the V-carb driver, who is the most recent pole sitter in NRRL, taking pole on Sunday. Unfortunately for Harry, that pole position led to a DNF after quite the torrid event for the V-carb driver. But he will look to bounce back today and is doing exactly that thus far. Obviously, only 2 drivers setting laps so far, but a 16.1 leaves him on provisional pole. We've got a yellow flag. I'd imagine that's people letting other cars pass, as we can see F1 Mikey Boy now coming through the final corner will be the 3rd man to set a lap. The newly crowned Formula 2 champion of last week goes to provisional pole with a 15.6. And right behind him, MCL85 will be getting a great slipstream behind F1 Mikey Boy, giving him all the tow in the world. Now peels out of the way, and MCL's lap will most certainly be one to watch as he charges 4th through Sector 1. And that tow really will be benefiting. Hum has gone into P4 with a 1:16.3, just 4 milliseconds off of Matt Connor, and then Billy Mewis just a few tenths behind that. Always very close NRRL, and we can see MCL setting a purple Sector 1 as the Aston Martin of Mr. Jabe comes across the line, splits Harry and Matt Connor. It's a 1:16.2 for the Aston Martin driver. That's a very good opening lap. as we watch MCL coming through the middle sector now. And the Sauber driver, this should be a very strong lap, a 56.6 middle sector split for him as he makes his way into the stadium section. You can just see how much front end grip you need. Ollie Southall goes into P7 with a 17.3, and MCL now rounds the final corner. And can he match his Sauber teammate? He can get close. It's a 16 flat for MCL, and that leaves us with a Sauber 1-2 with 6 minutes of qualifying done. Jamsey is now coming through the first sector. Drippy is coming through the first sector. Sidemen also coming through the first sector. Nova Piper will be the next man to set a lap. Although, no, he's on an out lap. I do apologise. So, Nova will be going on to his lap now, as always, with his striking purple helmet, as we like to say. Nova, that does count as an official lap time, a 1 minute 20.4, but that was a reconnaissance lap. Jamsey now coming through the stadium section in the Mercedes. A little bit wiggly through the stadium section, but nothing that should harm him too much. Jamsey comes to the line now, goes into P4 with a 1 minute 16.1. Just about beats Harry. That's a good lap from him. Sidemen will now take to the line and goes P2. Splits the two Saubers with a 15.7. That's a great lap. Drippy goes into P7 with a 1 minute 16.2. But that lap from Sidemen, who has really been quick in recent weeks, especially in qualifying. The Ferrari driver laying down a great lap time and only a 10th off provisional pole position. We now watch Meloon, who is on a lap. Ben Trott also taking to his first lap in NRRL. Wish him all the best of luck in the Williams car, as we see Meloon coming through the first sector, a 28.2 first sector split for him. And we watch the Haas driver now round the double apex hairpin and towards the S's section. Very important section of track this, and you can see from this camera angle how quickly the cars need to turn in. Left, right, keep the grip, keep it within the track limits. Meloon doing that perfectly, and now coming through the middle sector, a 56.4 middle sector split. That's a good middle sector split from the Haas driver, and you would imagine he will settle in nicely towards the front end, as Meloon, a little bit of wheel spin out the final corner, comes to the line, goes into P3, and that is a good lap from the Haas driver. Ben Trott goes into P12 with a 1 minute 16.3. Next driver to set a lap, I was going to say, would be Andy Price, but he has invalidated. So those honours now go to Astro, who will be setting another lap. Oh, well, his first lap here is I have no grip. Goes to provisional pole position in the Alpine. A 1 minute 15.6 for the Alpine driver, and that is a brilliant lap. About 10 milliseconds ahead of Mikey Boy. And a beautiful lap from the Alpine driver. Sees him take pole position. Incredible stuff in that stunning pink and blue liveried Alpine. What a lap from the Enstone man. Beautiful stuff. As Andy Price comes into the pits. Astro now round the final corner, and he is also going to come into the pits. Ligers now enters his first flying lap of the section. Looks a little bit on the less responsive side from the front end that you would like to see. And that is shown in the sector split, a 28.8 for Ligers. The car just looking a little bit sluggish, a little bit tired on the front end. As we now look at Hum, who's gone into P4 with a 1 minute 16.0, 20 milliseconds ahead of Meloon. Couple of drivers on their out laps, including Mr. Jabe, Matt Connor just going on to a lap, and then Harry also on his out lap. Matt Connor was the first man to set a lap in the session, occupied provisional pole position for a little bit of time, massively cutting over the turn 1 sausage curb there and very slow through that first chicane, and he is in none, so I do believe he's given up on that attempt. Ligers goes into P14 with a 1 minute 16.9. And I mean, you could see, watching on board with him, the car not very responsive at all. Harry is just coming through the final sector now to begin his flying lap in the V-Carb. We've then got Ollie Southall, who has just started his lap for Williams. His teammate currently 3 positions ahead of him in P12. He will look to right that wrong now. Rule number 1 of Formula 1, obviously beat your teammate. That is exactly what the Williams driver will be looking to do on this lap. It's 2 tenths up for Ollie Southall, a 28.4 in the first sector. An improvement, always good, and that improvement would take him closer to Ligers. I don't believe it would put him ahead of Ligers, but would definitely get him closer as we follow him now through the middle sector. Such a technical piece of racing circuit is this middle sector. And the Williams working through it well, now nearly 5 tenths up from the Williams driver, and that would take him up quite a way. Needs an improvement in the final sector as well if he wants to try and beat his teammate. As we see him come round the final corner now. Ollie Southall, does he improve? He does improve by 8 tenths of a second. Goes up to P14 with a 16.5. We'll now look to the likes of Mr. Jabe, who is coming round the final corner now. Harry dives into the pits, evidently not happy with his attempt. Mr. Jabe comes across the line and goes into P4 with a 1 minute 16 flat. Just 4 milliseconds quicker than Hum, and just 24 milliseconds quicker than Meloon. And look how close that little group is from Mr. Jabe all the way down to MCL. There's only about 32 milliseconds separating all of them. Incredible stuff. From P4 down to P7. We join Mikey, who's now on a lap. He's about a tenth up, and this would take him back to provisional pole. And you can see they're doing the same strategy again down at Sauber as MCL will get the toe from him. Can Mikey's lap hold up to take provisional pole? It can. A 1/10.5 improvement from Mikey, and he goes to the top of the timesheets, and once again giving his teammate a toe down towards turn 1, and maybe just peeling off to the edge there was Mikey boy after giving his teammate that toe. Jabe has invalidated his lap. We've got Billy Mewis currently going on to a lap, obviously, as is MCL, as we see Nova Piper rocket up towards the top of the timesheet. So 1 minute 15.7 all the way up to P3. Brilliant lap from the McLaren driver. And everywhere you look, drivers are improving. Meldrum currently on his lap. He has invalidated, though, currently in last place of the drivers that have set times. A big lock up there for Meldrum as he enters the final sector. And we'll go back on board with MCL, who's just coming through the stadium section now, and towards the final corner he comes. Is MCL able to improve on his lap? Comes to the line now and goes into P2 with a 1 minute 15.5. Restores the Sauber 1-2 at the top of the grid. And that is very close between the two Saubers. And I was explaining earlier that being on pole position may not be the best place to start. Well, if you're up there with your teammate in second and you can play the team games, that is an absolute dream for Sauber. And the Swiss outfit, they will be absolutely loving that. Only other driver on a lap at the minute is Hum. And he is coming through the stadium section now. Hum towards the line. Is he going to be able to try and improve on his lap? He does. Goes up to P6. It's about a 0.5 tenth improvement for the Mercedes driver. And goes up into P6. Sidemen, I did believe, started a lap, although he's going for 2 out laps. MCL will be coming into the box. Looks like Ligers has come out and has started a flying lap. Nearly everyone else in the pit lane. And Mikey Boy is saying in chat, teamwork makes the dream work. Exactly that. And with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left to go of qualifying, you'd imagine there'll be at least one run for every other driver. But Sauber sitting pretty at the top. I have no grip coming out. He is the lone Alpine tonight, and most certainly making it work. So where teamwork may make the dream work, I have no grip out there, absolutely alone and flying. Only about 2/10 off of pole position. Working very, very well here. As we see Ligers coming through the middle sector, the S's. Such a technical piece of circuit, but navigating it well is the V-Carb man. And now towards the Sector 2 split, he is 34 milliseconds up. And unfortunately for him, that would not give him an improvement, so needs a very good final sector to try and improve on his lap. Comes through the final corner now. Where can the V-Carb man go? Comes across the line, stays P17, improves by about a 10th, but I doubt he will be happy with that. Not an improvement for him. And it looks like Sidemen actually doing 2 outlaps here, quite interestingly. So next man to set a lap will be Astro, as all of the top 4, all of the top 5 really, on outlaps. Hum is still in the pits, and you would imagine he's missed his time to get out, so will not set another lap. Meloon and Billy have gone onto their laps, as have I Have No Grip, and we are going to go on board here with I Have No Grip and watch this lap, which could be potentially the lap of the weekend. The lone Alpine driver looking to take down the 2 Sauber drivers, and this could be very difficult for him. Is there an improvement in the first sector? There is. 75 milliseconds up. And the Alpine working well in Mexico City here tonight. As he now comes through that little double apex. Very difficult corner that. And now to the S's, where you can lose time and you can gain time like no other. But the Alpine seems to be working well, but he's invalidated. He is invalidated through the S's section, and I don't think he's going to be able to get full battery. So that might be his session over. Hum has retired from the session on track. So we now look to Sidemen, who's on his lap as the 2 Saubers begin their laps. No team games on the final laps. They're running completely together. Mikey, I believe, is behind our Jamsey, who is also on a lap, so that won't help him with the dirty air in the corners. As Sideman comes to the middle sector split, he's 2.5 tenths down. Nova is also on a lap. We will turn our eyes to Mikey Boy, who's currently on a 15.4, and the man on provisional pole position. MCL has invalidated, so he will not get another chance in this session. Mikey has also invalidated. He won't get a chance. Harry goes up to P5 with a brilliant lap in the V-Carb, a 15.6. Lovely stuff from Harry. Meloon, currently P3, will be best placed to try and take pole position. But the first man to set a lap in the top 6, or in, well, the top 9, and the only man to set a lap besides Meloon, will be Nova Piper. As Meloon retires from the session, you can only imagine he invalidated his lap as well. So it all now falls down to Nova Piper, who comes towards the line now in the McLaren. Can he nick the Sauber dreams away? He can't improve. He improved by a millisecond. Nova Piper stays P6. Astro went into P11. Billy Mewis isn't going to improve on this lap. That is your session over. And after invalidating on their final laps, their original time stood. Mikey on pole position from his teammate MCL. It is a Sauber 1-2 here in Mexico City. It is then Meloon in P3. I Have No Grip in P4. Harry with a great last minute lap taking P5. It is then Nova in P6. Sidemen 7th with Jamsey in 8th. Hum in 9th. And Mr. Jabe in 10th. It's an Aston 10-11 as his teammate is right behind him, that being Astro. And a very, very close session. And look at that, 43 milliseconds, all that could separate the 2 Saubers. 48 milliseconds, all that could separate the top three. But that is your qualifying session over then. And a very close session it was. The top 7 within 0.3 of each other. Down to P17 within a second. Meldrum, I doubt getting a clean lap. Same with Ligers, not having an ideal lap. But a very close session. And this is going to be quite the interesting Mexico City Grand Prix. As we will quickly take a look now at the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship standings. So, oh, never mind, it hasn't updated for some reason. I don't know why that hasn't updated. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I can assure you I definitely did update them. Why they haven't, could not tell you. But we will have a look here. So currently leading the championship is actually reserve driver Mikey GTI, who was third in Austria and then first in Spain. The driver in second place is actually Billy Mewis for McLaren. So technically the championship leader if you take out reserve drivers. In third is Brad Gibbs, who's also a reserve. Then in fourth is Meloon, who had a very good qualifying, so definitely looking to capitalise on that. It's then Mikey Boy, who is in fifth, Nova Piper sixth, I Have No Grip in seventh, Hum in eighth, Sidemen ninth. As we now look to the lights ahead of the Mexico City Grand Prix, and it is lights out, and away we go. And instantly, getting away well, it looked to be I Have No Grip. But Harry has immediately gotten past him as the two Saubers, wheel to wheel, towards turn one we go. It does look like Mikey's got the best of it and does lead into turn one. Harry looking to go round the outside of Sidemen, and there is contact between the V-Carb and the Ferrari. Harry on the outside, Sidemen on the inside. Harry makes the move and is up to third. Brilliant early doors racing from the V-Carb driver. In behind, we've got Meloon in fifth. I Have No Grip in sixth. Nova Piper seventh. It's Hum in eighth with Jamsey in ninth. And all change. As you can see there, there's a bit of contact at the back. That's Meldrum, who's fallen all the way to the back of the grid with that contact. But even still, we've got drivers 3 wide into the S's section. That surely can't end well as we see the Mercedes going off there. I believe that was our Jamsey going off the track there and having to let past Matt Connor and nearly losing a position to the Aston Martin of Astro, who has to take off of the track as well. But at the start, an ideal execution from Sauber. Mikey leads MCL, and their nearest challenger is Harry, who I believe is running quite the straight line speed setup and will definitely be a danger to the Saubers. As we look, the championship leader Billy Mewis currently in 13th place, down one position since qualifying, of course. But our big gainers on lap 1, Drippy and Matt Connor, all up 4 places as we see there. Hum going very deep into turn 1 and big contact as he slams into the side of the Haas there. Not able to get past and no damage done either, as there's a little bit of weaving going on down that straight to try and break the slipstream, as we see the possible race strategies being the medium to hard and the hard to medium to medium. But Drippy now becomes our big gainer, up 5 places. Sidemen up 3, Harry up 2, Meloon down 2. We've then got I Have No Grip, who's down 3, Mr. Jabe down 4 places. So a very, very quick start to this race. Mikey leading it well. It is then his teammate MCL. They've got Harry behind. Sidemen in 4th, picking up a penalty already for those corner cutting warnings. And it all looks just to be settling down. A little bit of a DRS train going on here from sort of P1 to P6. And Sidemen all over the back of Harry here. And will go on board with the Ferrari driver, draining the overtake with the DRS enabled. Now looks to the inside as we head towards turn 1. Ferrari and V-Carb wheel to wheel, just as they were into turn 1 on lap 1. Harry doing his best to defend on the inside. Nothing doing for him though, and Sidemen moves up into the podium places, but Harry will have that DRS and the overtake button to try and come back at him. He looks to the outside. Does the V-Carb driver? Can he hang it around the outside? It turns to the inside now, and they will still be wheel to wheel as we head towards the double apex. Harry with the inside line. Sidemen going just a little bit wide there, but is still gaining. Better traction for him. And will Harry have to concede into the chicane? No! He goes sweeping round the outside. A beautiful move from the V-Carb driver. Keeps in third place, but crucially, that has dropped this battle from 3rd to 6th, out of DRS of the leaders. So the two Saubers, they say teamwork makes the dream work, and they are most certainly going to look at work, as we've got 2 cars round now. That's Mr. Jabe and Ben Trott, who goes into the wall trying to recover and damages his front wing. Mr. Jabe also with a bit of damage, I believe. Astro is just ahead of them. The two Aston Martins having a torrid opening 4 laps. Down 6 places and 8 places respectively, as we see Sidemen get past Harry into turn 1. And this time the move is most certainly made for the Ferrari driver. Nova Piper on the back of that fight, as is I Have No Grip. As now is Drippy, Hum, Matt Connor, Jamsey, and Billy Mewis. So this is getting very, very close. You can see from 3rd all the way down to P11 is all in this DRS train. And that is going to get very, very difficult. Billy Mewis doing a good job to hold on to the back of this train on the hard compound tyres. Mikey Boy doing a very good job to get away cleanly on the grid on the hard compound tyres. You would have expected him to fall back just from the sheer fact that it is such a long run down to turn 1 in the Mexico City Grand Prix. But not only defending from his teammate, defending from, you would imagine, sort of the entire top 4, top 5 as they look to attack him. And especially on the hard tyres as well. Not an easy feat, but Mikey doing very well. And these two Saubers are beginning to pull away. Sidemen has managed to pull away from Harry, and that's going to put him under threat from Nova Piper now in the McLaren, who's using the ERS, who's using the DRS. He looks to the inside of the V-Carb and should be a relatively easy move down into turn 1. Moves over in the braking zone. Harry later on the brakes though, absolutely not giving anything up. There's a little bit of contact between them, but eventually Harry does have to concede and moves down into 5th place. A brilliant start for Harry, now back where he started, and I Have No Grip. Just maybe looking to challenge into turn 4. Nothing doing for him though. And the Alpine will sit behind for the time being. And Drippy with a lovely opportunist move, as I Have No Grip going a little bit wide, moves up into 6th place. Great move there from the Haas driver. And this train only looks to be potentially growing as Andy Price looks to try and gain on this battle. As we see a car around there, and that's Meloon. And there's another car around there. And that is Ligers. So very rare that we see 2 drivers have the exact same incident at the same corner. But Meloon and Ligers both going round, and Ligers managing to hold it pretty well. Meloon doing a complete 180. And it seems that Harry's had an incident as well, because he has no front wing and is down in 13th. So the man that was running P5 in this race, after an incredible start as well, now with no front wing and down to 13th. And I would love to know what happened to Harry. That is a very confusing incident, and comes in to retire from the session. Meloon comes into the pits and changes his front wing, you would imagine, as he pulls into his box. Got a 10-second time penalty for his dues. They aren't changing the front wing, I don't believe. Quite an interesting pit stop there. But out in front, Mikey is gaining away from his teammate. Nova Piper is gaining on Sidemen for 3rd. And you can see now the penalties really starting to roll themselves in. And that is going to be crucial for this Mexico City Grand Prix. So easy to get a warning and so easy to pick up a penalty. And that is definitely going to damage a lot of drivers' races. Yellow flag in Sector 2. I believe that may be Liger's again. No, it was Meldrum who was causing that yellow flag. Can't see any damage to the front of the Red Bull, so he will continue on. As we see Ben Trotz, who did leave the session. Astro and Mr. J coming into the pits at the same time, and that's really not ideal for Aston Martin, who are going to double stack. And Mr. J definitely going to lose a lot of time in the pits there, as we see I Have No Grip pick up another penalty. And we will quickly look to the penalties. You've got to remember, only lap 7 of 36 of this Grand Prix. We've already got Meloon on 13 seconds of penalties. Incredible. Sidemen currently on 6 seconds. It's the same with I Have No Grip and Astro. We've then got Drippy, Hum, Ollie Southall, Mr. J, Ben Trott and Meldrum on 3 seconds. And then Meloon, 13 seconds of penalties. Really not ideal. And Sidemen is definitely under threat here from Drippy, but gaining away. Manages to defend with the DRS. And stays in 5th place for the time being. Ligers picks up a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And this DRS train, it just feels like it's never ending. It's so close between absolutely everyone, and Hum really looking to come at I Have No Grip here down the inside. I Have No Grip just braking a little later, managing to hold position for the time being. But that's very close between the Alpine and the Mercedes. Mercedes currently running in 7th and 8th. But in the battle for the lead, maybe the medium tyres just starting to give up a little bit now. Is that gap between Mikey and MCL most certainly growing? 2.1 seconds now between them. And that is not going to be helping MCL's race at all. Still 3.1 seconds ahead of Nova Piper, who now dives into the pits, as does Drippy, but cut over the pit lane entry line and picks up a 3-second time penalty because of it. I Have No Grip stays out. He will be under massive pressure from Hum as we get down to turn 1. DRS enabled for the Mercedes driver. Just not enough battery to try and gain. Sidemen and Jamsey also into the pit lane for a fresh set of tyres. And the mediums do look like they're starting to degrade a little bit. And we start seeing the pit stops creep in now. I think this would be a little bit early if you want to try and take the tyres all the way, as we see Hum now down the inside of I Have No Grip. Lovely opportunist move from the Mercedes driver. Moves himself up into 3rd currently. And Matt Connor will now look to do exactly the same to I Have No Grip as the Mercedes just did. Andy Price and Billy Mewis obviously will not be stopping anytime soon in this Grand Prix. 8 laps on the hard compound tyres. Absolutely nothing. As we see, I Have No Grip, yes, now under threat from Matt Connor and being passed by Matt Connor. So I Have No Grip's tyres most certainly looking done. And you would imagine the Alpine driver will be into the pits at the end of this lap. Although does stay out, and that's a very interesting choice. I mean, you can see just on board with him how much he's struggling. But evidently not working the way he would want to, but deciding to stay out. Very, very interesting. As we see into turn 1 and 2 now, I Have No Grip. Andy J. Price all the way right behind him and now pulling out of the slipstream and looking to pass. I Have No Grip looking a little bit quicker in a straight line. So maybe that could be the point from I Have No Grip, is have a really fast car in a straight line, but then in the corners don't really have the speed. And Andy Price now going up the inside into the double apex hairpin and making the move stick on I Have No Grip. And now it will be Billy Mewis's turn, who looks around the outside of the S's, goes off the track in doing so. Will he have to give that position back? You would imagine if this was real F1, the stewards would get involved, and he probably would. But this being the F1 game, unfortunately, we don't have access to a stewards room, and Billy Mewis will hold the position. Matt Connor has got through on Hum, and that may have been some tactics from Hum there to let him go and get the DRS back, as MCL now comes into the pits. The man second in the session into the pit lane. Matt Connor also comes into the pits. Billy Mewis stays out. I Have No Grip once again stays out. So we've got MCL, Hum and Matt Connor all into the pit lane. Drippy also stays out and is under massive pressure from Ollie Southall here as we go down towards turn one. And look how quick the Haas is in a straight line. And we're going four abreast into turn one here. Or it looked like it for a moment. We're going too wide between four different drivers. And there's contact there between Drippy and Nova Piper. Luckily, all of them pointing in a straight line, and Ollie Southall does lose out. You would imagine that would be the case with him being only one of two men who started on the mediums and has stayed out. And you can see the grip really isn't there for the Williams driver. And that pack of three cars who have all pitted now look to charge forth towards the top end of the grid. Andy Price currently in second place from Billy Mewis. F1 Mikey Boy leading the entirety of this race so far. Started on the hard compound tyres and will just look to extend his stint in this race. Interestingly, with that undercut, MCL has come out about 2-3 seconds behind that train of Sidemen, Nova Piper and Drippy. With a 2-lap delta difference, that won't be an incredibly large amount of delta. And you can see he's being held up here by Ollie Southall, who peels into the pit lane, And our Jamsey is actually going to look to attack MCL here. MCL obviously gets the DRS, so nothing doing. Nova Piper manages to get past Sidemen into 5th place. But MCL, that may have been the wrong strategy call, because he's now behind the likes of Drippy, Sidemen and Nova Piper. And will have to gain 4 seconds on them nearly, 3.5 seconds. And then overtake them. And that will not be an easy feat at all. It's quite difficult to overtake around Mexico with all of the DRS trains and the corners not really made for overtaking. So we see Billy Mewis right on the back of Andy Price as we go through the S's, getting very close to the back of the Red Bull driver and looking as racy as ever. Lap 12 of 36. We're about to move on to lap 13, and F1 Mikey Boy continues to lead this one for Sauber. It is Andy Price in second, Billy Mewis in third. I Have No Grip fourth, still not pitting on the medium tyres. A very interesting strategy from the Alpine. It's then Nova Piper in fifth, Sidemen sixth, Drippy seventh, with MCL in eighth. Our Jamsey is in 9th, Hum in 10th, Matt Connor in 11th, Astro 12th, Mr. Jabe in 13th, Meloon 14th, with Ligers in 15th, Ollie Southall 16th, Meldrum 17th, Ben Trott is 18th after disconnecting, and Harry is our one and only retiree of the session thus far. As there's contact there between Billy Mewis and Andy Price, and both of them having to stamp on the brakes as Andy J. Price manages to hold it, and Billy picks up a time penalty for his issues, and that brings I Have No Grip right back into this fight. Sidemen has also caught up to this, and that means the new hard runners of Sidemen, Nova Piper and Drippy will all be looking to get past as quickly as possible. The guys ahead having not pitted, and these will be crucial moves for the like of Sidemen, who is going to go to the inside towards the stadium section of I Have No Grip, and again going off the track to complete the move. And there you see the McLaren trying to get past the Nova Piper, And both of them going very, very wide. Massive contact between them, and I have no grip. Losing a lot of position there. Nova Piper barging his way through as our leader, Mikey, comes into the pit lane. And that leaves Andy Price out to lead this one from Billy Mewis in second. Sidemen is in third, but moves his way up to second past Billy. Nova Piper up to fourth ahead of Drippy. It is then MCL in sixth. Jamsey is in seventh. I Have No Grip came into the pits. Now down in 12th place is the Alpine driver and will only lose more positions as he has to adhere to the pit lane speed limiter. As Meldrum picks up another time penalty, compounding his issues down in 17th place. And Mikey picks up a 3-second penalty, and could that be big in the battle for the win? As we'll look to the penalties once more, and you can see Mikey on 3 seconds of penalties. Nova Piper and MCL, who we would consider in the fight for the win of this race, do not have penalties at all. Mr. Jabe picks up a 3-second penalty. And this train now, you would imagine Sidemen should easily get past Andy Price here with the DRS. Doesn't have much battery, does the Ferrari, but he will peel to the inside. And that is move done. Sidemen takes the lead of the Mexico City Grand Prix on lap 15. We see Drippy down the inside of Billy Mewis. Billy having not pitted yet either. And down into 5th now has MCL right behind him. And you would imagine MCL will be quite an easy move for the Sauber driver. And that is exactly what it is. Moves himself up into 5th place. And this entire train now looking to try and attack Andy. And Nova picks up a penalty. So just as we were saying that Mikey's penalty could be crucial because the likes of Nova Piper don't have a penalty, he picks one up himself in combat, trying to get past Andy, who is the real big outlier here. And Andy now picks up a 3-second penalty. So the only man in the top 6 without a penalty is MCL. As we're about to move on to lap 16 of 36, and you would imagine Nova Piper should be a relatively easy move as Jamsey now picks up a penalty, and every single driver in this race besides MCL with a corner cutting penalty. Nova Piper does manage to get past Andy Price and up into 2nd place as Drippy and MCL battle it out for 4th and 5th. Drippy wins that battle for the time being, and he will now look to gain on Andy, who will only be slowing him down. Mikey manages to get past Billy and up into 6th place. And our long-time race leader now joins in the fight as well. Astro gets another 3 seconds of penalties. And I must say, the clouds are looking very, very grey here in Mexico City. And I would not be surprised if we do see a little bit of a sprinkling of rain in this session, and that could be the reason that people like Andy Price and Billy Mewis are staying out for so long, is maybe they're expecting some rainfall and potential intermediate tyres. Lap 17 of 36 of this Mexico City Grand Prix, and Drippy managing to get past Andy Price as he now comes into the pit lane after 16 laps on those tyres. Brilliant stint from the Red Bull driver. MCL manages to get through into 3rd, and Mikey following his teammate through up into 4th place. And the Sauber teamwork once again going on. Mikey, ever the opportunist, just following his teammate straight through. Sauber now 3rd and 4th. They've got about 1.5 seconds to try and gain to Sidemen and Nova Piper, and Nova is going down the inside and makes the move stick, but there is contact between them, and Sidemen barging his opponent off the track and getting back through. And you would have to say that's most certainly an illegal move. Absolutely barged Nova off the track and took the position back again, and that has only brought MCL and Mikey and Drippy back into the fight as we see Mr. Jabe into the pit lane to retire from the session. And he is our second retiree of tonight. We've got a yellow flag, and that, I believe, was for Meldrum, who is very, very close to being lapped. And almost looks like he's slowing down in a way and locking up massively and going into the wall is the Red Bull driver. And that will be causing a yellow flag for all of the leaders. But we will now look to the lead fight as the two Saubers look to try and gain on the two leaders. Nova Piper and Sidemen will be under massive pressure from the two Saubers as MCL looking at the back of Nova Piper. Mikey Boy decides to stay behind for the time being, and MCL running very, very wide there. And that allows Mikey straight round the outside. So braking early, actually helping the Sauber. And he gets past his teammate up into third. And I always say it about Mikey, ever the opportunist, doing exactly what he needed to do as Meldrum comes into the pits and retires from the session as well. Our third retiree of the night. Nova Piper finally managing to get in Sidemen's number. But Mikey, on the much fresher tyres, you would imagine going to be very, very close as we've got another yellow flag towards the back. And I believe that may have been for Ollie Southall, who is behind his lapped teammate, gets through on the inside. And you can see the tyre difference. I mean, Mikey almost pushing Sidemen through the stadium section. But as they get the ERS enabled, and they will get the DRS in about 250 metres, it flicks on now. The big letterbox on the rear wing of these modern day Formula 1 cars opens. And we race towards turn one and look at the Sauber of Mikey. Almost looking to gain two positions in one corner here. Down the inside he goes. Braking very, very early though. And that has cost him. Sidemen manages to get back past Nova Piper in that fight. But Mikey maybe just not taking the risks that he needs to here. He is going to look to the inside of Nova Piper. But again, braking a little too late. And Nova Piper just easily able to sweep around the outside. Mikey will now look for it down the inside into the double apex. And makes the move stick. Lovely move there from Mikey to get up into second. As we see Astro retire for Aston Martin. And a horrible day for Aston Martin with both drivers out of the session. And the Silverstone-based team will most certainly need to go back and look at what went wrong this weekend. Mikey surely with a brilliant chance to get back into the lead of this race. We're about to enter lap 20 of 36. And F1 Mikey very, very close. As you see Sidemen run wide out of the final corner, and that will only compound his exit. As the Sauber driver now flicks on the DRS, enables the ERS, and through he goes back into the lead on lap 20. An easy move. About the easiest move as you're ever going to get in a Formula 1 car. And he moves back up into the lead. And MCL would inherit the win if the flag were to be called now. But he just needs to try and stick with this top three, and especially his teammate. Not let them run away with anything and just sit behind. Drippy is also behind, trying to put some pressure on MCL, as is Jamsey. And then this pack of leaders has about a 5-second gap as MCL actually loses position to Drippy. And we'll take a quick look at the penalty situation. It's Mikey Boy with 3 seconds. It's then Sidemen on 6 seconds. Nova Piper on 3 seconds. Drippy with 9 seconds. MCL, the only man in the entire Grand Prix yet to get a penalty. It is then Jamsey who is on 3 seconds. Hum on 6 seconds. Matt Connor on 3 seconds, along with Andy Price, Ollie Southall, Ligers, Meloon, and Ben Trott. And then another 6 seconds going to Billy Mewis and Ollie Southall. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2, and that looks like an Alpine, and it was I have no grip. Doesn't look like there's damage, but spinning coming out of the S's section as Hum comes into the pit lane. Mikey continues to lead and is pulling a little bit of a gap. Sidemen will still be in the DRS. And MCL also comes into the pits. So trying the two-stop is the Sauber driver. And if he can catch back up to the pack, you would imagine that would be a good strategy. But it's crucial to see if he can catch up. I Have No Grip comes into the pits and retires from the session. And that is our 5th retiree of the night here in Mexico City. But look how close it is between all of these drivers. And that's Nova Piper going very wide through the S's. And Drippy will look to put massive pressure on as Mikey Boy is gaining away. Sidemen gaining away in second place. And suddenly the baton swings towards Mikey once more. Lap 22 of 36, and that's Nova Piper coming into the pit lane for the two-stop, as is our Jamsey. Matt Connor decides to stay out, as do the top 3. We've got Meloon in there as well, but obviously currently running 13th is the Haas driver, so won't be competing for the win. We've got a yellow flag ahead of us. That's for I Have No Grips retired car on the outside. And Sidemen just a little bit under pressure from Drippy, but not too much. The Haas driver is most certainly gaining on the Ferrari, though. They've then got a near 8-second gap behind to Matt Connor. It's then a 4-second gap to Billy. And we see MCL trying to gain time on Andy Price, and that is what will be harming MCL's charge, is that Drippy and Sidemen pulling each other along, and Drippy going past in the middle sector, a very unusual place to make a pass, but making it work. And Sidemen almost seems like he's got an issue here, because he is losing a hell of a lot of time. No damage to the front wing of the Ferrari, but the car looking especially slow, I must say, as we come through the final corner. And he is going to dive into the pit lane, is the Ferrari. So, as I was saying, that Sidemen and Drippy being together will be harming MCL's race. Sidemen into the pit lane, and suddenly MCL's looking alright again. So we see Billy Mewis coming back into the pits to do the two-stop. Mikey leading now by 4.3 seconds is the Sauber driver, and looking very, very good to win this race. 13 laps left though, anything can happen. It is definitely not a foregone conclusion yet for the Sauber man, who has been so dominant. Not only tonight, but in many races in NRRL. I mean, you look to the Formula 2 Championship on Saturdays, hasn't finished off the podium once, apart from the race where he won the championship. So, Mikey Boy doing an incredible job all throughout NRRL, and especially tonight. Drippy is in second, just about 4 seconds off of the race leader thus far. 5-lap-old tyres for the Haas driver. You would imagine they're not in the greatest of nick at the minute. We've then got Matt Connor, who is in third. Andy Price in fourth after doing a very long first stint, allowing him to make his second stint, you would imagine, a one-stop on the medium tyres. Currently running in fourth. Great strategy from the Red Bull driver and great pace from him, as we see Drippy now come into the pits for the soft compound tyres, which is an inspired choice. 12 laps to go in this race, so I wouldn't have imagined that soft compound tyres will last 12 laps, but Drippy making the gamble, and a gamble it most certainly is. We've then got MCL in fourth as Andy Price moves up into the final podium place. It is then Jamsey, followed by Nova Piper and Sidemen in 5th, 6th and 7th. Drippy comes out in 8th with Hum in 9th. Billy Mewis is in 10th. Ollie Southall 11th with Ligers in 12th. Meloon in 13th and Ben Trott 14th after disconnecting from the session. But Mikey now leading by 12 seconds. Surely he is thinking in the back of his mind that he has got this all under control. we will look to the penalties again, just to see the updated penalties. We can see Drippy on 12 seconds of penalties. So while he may be in the battle for the lead, definitely not going to be a contender come the end of the race. I can assure you that. 12 seconds of penalties will get you absolutely nowhere. MCL still the only man without a penalty and doing a great job in the Sauber to keep that going. 25 laps have gone of 36. Doing a very good job. Stark driving from the Sauber driver, keeping it within the track limits as Nova Piper picks up another 3-second penalty. And this group is now beginning to gain on Andy Price. Drippy manages to get past Nova Piper and up into 6th on the soft compound tyres. You would imagine they'll be very, very quick for about 3 laps. And then they will start to fall off very, very quickly as we see a Ferrari into the pits, and that is Matt Connor. And it'll be interesting to see what tyres he goes on to. Drippy sets the fastest lap of the race, and MCL breezes past Andy Price up into 2nd place, but a 16-second gap to his teammate. Only needs to bring that down to a 3-second gap, so technically a 13-second gap between them. But that isn't going to be the easiest of gaps to bring down, that's for sure. We see our Jamsey currently in 4th. It is Drippy in 5th, Nova Piper 6th, Sidemen 7th. And this train going from 3rd all the way down to 7th. You've then got Hum, who is in 8th, Billy Mewis in 9th, with the Ferrari of Matt Connor right behind him on the new hard compound tyres, which is quite the interesting choice. I definitely wouldn't have gone on to hards at the end of this race, but maybe Matt Connor knows something we do not. But as we move on to lap 27 with Mikey, looking very, very good for the race win is the Sauber driver. 14 seconds the gap, so MCL is pulling in by about 2 seconds a lap. And with 9 laps to go, do some simple math. 2 times 9 is 18. So he would definitely get close enough if he can keep up this pace. But that is the question. Can he keep up this pace? As Andy Price comes in to the pits for the soft compound tyres, looking for a late charge in the Red Bull. And MCL only has to whittle it down to a 3-second gap, is doing more than enough and isn't really under any pressure, as Jamsey has got the train of Nova Piper, Sidemen and Drippy right behind him. And the soft compound tyres not exactly helping Drippy as much as he would have liked. I'd imagine he thought, oh yeah, I'll go on the soft compound tyres, get past everyone, fly away. But he seems to be very, very stuck in the Haas. As you can see, they're all behind the Mercedes, who looks to be completely holding them up, but is on the same lap old tyres as pretty much all of them. So very confusing as to why Jamsey's struggling a bit, and you can see Drippy already with massive wheel spin, and Mikey comes into the pits. So again, looking for a late charge. 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Mikey falls down to 7th. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can gain back that time. He's got about 2.7 seconds to try and gain to the Mercedes ahead of him. Then he's got a 3.7 second gap to gain to this massive train of cars. As we see Nova Piper trying to go down the inside of Jamsey, and big contact between them. Nothing doing for the McLaren. But I think Mikey's going to have a real tough time trying to regain. And even if he does regain, he's then got to pull 3 seconds on MCL, which is no easy feat. MCL definitely looking good. Started P2 in this race. has ran a very cool, calculated strategy and is looking very good for the lead of this one. Lap 29 we will go on to now of 36. 5 drivers retired so far, those being I Have No Grip, Astro, Jabe, Meldrum and Harry. In the penalty situation, we've got Sideman on 12 seconds and Drippy on 15 seconds. So they're definitely not going to be troubling the podium places, that's for sure. Mikey looking to gain on Hum, but Hum using the ERS effectively. And Hum's tyres still not incredibly old, so they will be providing him with some good grip. But it is important for Mikey to try and get past at the next available opportunity. As we go towards the double apex, is Mikey going to have a look? He's not. He's happy to sit behind for the time being. Now applies the overtake button, looking to go down the inside towards the S's, makes the move stick. Good move there from Mikey, keeps it within the track limits as well. And Drippy is just starting to fall off the back of that DRS train. Mikey with about 1.9 second gain, and he will be there. The gap between MCL and Jamsey not coming down at the rate it was, just hovering around the 2 second gap. So if Mikey can try and get involved in that battle, he definitely could gain. He's just got to make sure those medium tyres don't go off with 6 laps remaining. 1.3 seconds behind Drippy, who is gaining on Sideman. Nova Piper under threat, but trying to put Jamsey under threat at the same time. Just jinking out towards the inside, trying to dummy Jamsey into a mistake. Nothing doing though. The Mercedes driver holding his cool. And the Mexican fans willing the drivers on. You can see the grandstands absolutely packed. And Mikey has already gained up to the back of the Haas. And the soft compound tyres really not working well. And this is slowing Mikey up absolutely massively here. He will get the DRS and look to make the move towards the final sector. And an easy move it is for him. But now 2 seconds behind the battle of Jamsey, Piper and Sidemen. And that will not be an easy battle to gain on, with them having the DRS on each other. And you can see Sidemen already pulling out of the final corner, trying to put the moves on Nova Piper as Drippy comes into the pits and gets a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, retires from the session. And that is a shame for the Haas driver, who has been in the leading fight for all 31 laps, but a 10-second penalty in the pit lane and maybe a bit of a poor strategy call to go onto the softs. And he is the 6th retiree of this session. No change between the front 3, Jamsey, Piper and Sidemen. Actually beginning to gain on MCL here, as Mikey is now in the DRS of that train and will join in the fight on those fresh medium tyres. You would imagine we'll have plenty of grip, only 3 laps on the mediums for now. The gap is coming down between the leader and this train. Andy Price picks up a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. But this is going to be interesting to see what happens to MCL. Obviously the only man without a penalty, but that could all change very, very quickly. Sidemen looking to gain on Nova Piper. Nova Piper looking to gain on Jamsey. Mikey looking to gain on Sidemen. As towards turn 1, Mikey does look best placed for a move as we go towards the inside. And Mikey makes his way up into 4th place. And MCL picks up a 3-second penalty. And the shape of this race changes absolutely massively now, as the leader picks up a time penalty. And that is going to be huge for the course of this race. Sidemen picks up another penalty. We know he's not really involved in the fight with the amount of penalties he got. But F1 Mikey Boy looking for the late comeback and is doing exactly that. 5/10 behind Nova Piper, who is only 2/10 behind Jamsey. And look at that. Jamsey has the DRS on MCL. Drivers with only 3 seconds is MCL, Jamsey and Mikey. And they will be the real contenders for the win of this race. Nova Piper on 6 seconds and Sidemen on 15 seconds. You would imagine they're not going to be able to pull out those gaps. As F1 Mikey Boy now looks for his next target, that being Nova Piper. To the inside he goes with the battery and the DRS. Wheel to wheel with the McLaren, braking down into turn 1. And Mikey moves up back into the podium places, but Nova Piper sweeping around the outside manages to get the position back. So Mikey will have to look for round 2. He now goes to the inside, needs to brake a little bit later, doesn't manage to do that though. And this is really holding up Mikey, who now looks for the switchback into the double apex. And again, Nova just holding it round the outside, managing to keep the position, and this is going to pull them away from the 2 leaders. Mikey finally manages to get past Nova Piper, but is now out of the DRS of the leaders, and has a massive snap just to compound his issues. And Nova Piper looking to try and get past Mikey, doesn't manage to do it, but with 3 laps to go in this race, he's just managed to get back in the DRS of Jamsey, who's in the DRS of MCL, and the 3 true leaders who only have 3 seconds of penalties now are the official top 3. Nova Piper will look to try and gain back on Mikey Boy and is gaining towards the back of the Sauber, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough for him. Isn't able to make the move into turn 1 as Jamsey very, very close to the back of MCL. 2 laps to go in this race, and Jamsey is coming at MCL, who has led for so long. Jamsey to the inside and takes the lead on lap 34 of lap 36. It is a new leader in NRRL. Our Jamsey takes the lead of the Mexico City Grand Prix. A little bit of a wobble out of the double apex hairpin, but manages to make his way through. And a lovely move from the Mercedes driver sees him take the lead. Mikey Boy just having a little bit of a moment through the S's. That's going to lose him time to his teammate and the Mercedes-Benz. And this is going to be very, very close as we now come through the final sector and towards the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix. Meloon gets a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane and becomes our 7th retiree. And Haas with a torrid day here in Mexico City. Mikey is gaining on his teammate, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Down into turn 1 it isn't. And it will all come down then, you would imagine, to the final lap of this race. 3 drivers in it for the win. Can Nova Piper try and get involved and influence that battle? It is going to be very, very close between all of them. But only one man can take the flag, and is there to be late drama. Jamsey currently leading and has never won a race in NRRL before. Could this be his crowning moment? MCL is right behind him and is using battery through the S's, interestingly enough, to try and gain. Whereas you can see Jamsey and Mikey Boy picks up a penalty. And that surely rules him out of the opportunity for a win. And Nova Piper will now look at that and think, well, I can get the final podium place as he's now got a 6-second penalty. So surely the battle now comes down to MCL and Jamsey as we enter the final lap of this Mexico City Grand Prix. And Jamsey has much more battery. MCL with the DRS as we race towards turn 1 now. Is there enough straight for the Sauber. There isn't. Jamsey holds his nerve. So you would imagine there is one more opportunity for MCL to try and make the move. And that is out of here. But a good exit for Jamsey. And surely that secures him the win of this race. As we go through the middle sector now, Andy Price falls down to 9th. But in the battle for the lead, there will be one more DRS zone. But surely Jamsey, who has been such an under-the-radar driver in the whole of NRRL, is finally going to have his crowning moment. The Mercedes driver has never won in NRRL before. But what a drive it has been from him. Made the right strategy calls. Did exactly what he needed to do at the right times. And for Mercedes-Benz, they will return to the top step of the podium. As Jamsey picks up a penalty out of the final corner. And that hands it to MCL. As we now round the final corner, it's MCL that wins the Mexico City Grand Prix. I cannot believe what I have just seen. Jamsey had his first race win in the palm of his hand. He had both hands on the winner's trophy and got a penalty out of the final corner to take it away from himself. I do not believe it. So it is MCL who wins the Mexico City Grand Prix. It is Jamsey who will be absolutely heartbroken and comes home for second place. Mikey will finish in third with Nova Piper in fourth. It's Matt Connor who takes fifth. Hum is in sixth. Sidemen seventh with Billy Mewis in eighth. Andy Price in ninth. Ollie Southall coming through the stadium section now for 10th. It is Ligers in 11th. And Ben Trotz, who disconnected very early on, takes 12th with 7 retirees, in this Grand Prix. But what an end to that race that was. Jamsey will be absolutely heartbroken. I have never seen an ending to a race like that in my entire life. Wow. And there is your classification, ladies and gentlemen. It is MCL who wins the Mexico City Grand Prix. It is our Jamsey who comes home in second, with Mikey Boy taking the final podium place. And a double Sauber podium. The Swiss outfit will be loving that. Nova Piper comes home in fourth, with Matt Connor. A great drive from 14th on the grid to 5th. It is then Humbled in 6th, with Sidemen in 7th. Billy Mewis comes home in 8th. Andy Price in 9th. Ollie Southall in 10th, with points for Williams, which look very good for the viewers. A lot of Williams fans in the chat, as always. Picking up a point for Williams was Ollie. Ligers in 11th, with Ben Trott in 12th after disconnecting early on. With Meloon, Drippy, I Have No Grip, Astro, Jabeson, Meldrum and Harry all failing to reach the flag. Well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. My name's been JP. I've been your commentator tonight. Always a pleasure to be here in the commentary booth. We'll be back tomorrow for the Wednesday Super League, so make sure you don't miss that. If you are new, drop a follow down below, whatever platform you're on, Twitch or TikTok, the only 2 places you can watch NRRL live. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for the Wednesday Super League. Take care.